What sort of systems do you have in your business? Are they working for you? If you don't have systems, or are they not working for you, are they the right type of systems? That's going to be the topic for the next couple of weeks. Hello, I'm Charlie from Ask Charlie Latham, your online business manager. Today, I'm going to start by talking about systems to communicate with your team, and systems to communicate with your customers or clients, however you call them. Now, even if you are a solo person who works solo, you don't have a team, you don't have other people that you work with, you still do have other people that you work with. If you think about it, you have your own providers for your software, for your systems. I keep using that term systems, it's such a good word. For your hosting, for your email, for if you're doing transcriptions, the transcription software you use, they're your suppliers. You have your customers that you need to communicate with to begin with. That's a big one. And then sometimes you may even need to communicate with your customers' customers, or your clients' customers, or however you want to put that. So as a solo person, you still have to communicate. You've still got to manage that communication. If you have a team, it's the same sort of thing, but you will have people that work with you on a day-to-day basis, and it's imperative that you know what what all of you are doing, what you're doing, what they're doing, and making sure that what you're doing is going to give them the information, your team, the information they need quickly and effectively, and that they know what they're doing, when it's due, and how to get it to you so that you don't lose it. So let's have a look at the sorts of things that you might need to use a system for. So first of all, you want to track requests from your customers or from your providers even. Sometimes your providers will come back to you and say, we need to test this out. Could you please do X, Y, and Z? That's a request coming in. So you've got to track all the incoming requests. Your customer, even if you've only got one customer or two customers or a small number of customers, they've still got requests for you. They're going to have what those requests are, when they're needed by, and any constraints that go around those requests. Could you please put this up on my website? Okay, so if you were to put something up on the website, when does it need to be done by? Where are the words? Do you need to write the words? If you need to write the words, what is the general gist of those words? What is it that they're trying to convey to their customer base? Are there images? Where are those images located? You've got to be able to get all of that information together so that you're not wasting time chasing all of that information around and then having to store it somewhere and then remember where you've stored it. So you need systems to track your incoming requests. You need systems then to track the responses to those requests, or a system to track responses to those requests. You need to manage the governance of your business. I'm going to use accounting as a good one because governance goes around your accounting quite well. Are you recording BAS? Are you recording income tax? Are you recording what you're selling and what you're purchasing? For some of the more high-level things, is there a legislation or are there guidelines for the industry you're working in that says you have to do these things every time you do something? You must have this information recorded somewhere. And then finally, the audit trails. I talked about tracking the requests and tracking the requests and tracking the responses. Later on, and it might not be too far down the track, you might need to go back and say, okay, what happened here? What went well with this one so that I can do that again, or what went wrong so that I don't do it again? They're the two reasons you'd want an audit trail. Sometimes it's just, when did that change get made, so that we know when we have to put a tick in a box somewhere as well, which comes back to your governance. So your audit trails, your governance, and your tracking of incoming and outgoing information. So what type of systems are there? Everyone will be familiar with email and SMS, and I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to frown really hard on getting requests via SMS. It's really hard for me to track my requests via SMS. They come in on my phone and I'm like, I'll get to that, and then I sometimes forget it. Much better that it comes in on my email, at least, because it's into a different system and it's got a persistent storage system for it. Your calendar is another type of system. Getting your requests in and getting them into a calendar so you can look and get a visual of when your requests are due, when your tasks are due, when people are supposed to have things to you, so you can start following them up in a timely fashion. Then we're going to get into the real systems, and I'm going to break them down into 3 broad categories. We have task management, we have a help desk and support desk type system, and we have a project management system. Now I'll go through those 3 specifically in a minute. The other thing that we want to consider when we're looking at our systems is how do they integrate with other things that we're using. We all have email. How do those systems integrate with our email to make it easy for us to get an email in and then get it into our system so that we can track it? Now, if you're just using email, that's fine. You can just use email, particularly if you don't have a high level of incoming work or it's not detailed work. You could just use folders and tags to organise the information coming in so that you can keep it all together and track it. I will say that after a little bit, that becomes a little tricky. You do end up with a lot of information that becomes unwieldy and really hard to put together. So email is a good start. Email and calendaring systems are a good start if you've only got a small amount of work. But those 3 topics that categories that I just outlined are probably where you want to be looking, and I've broken them up that way specifically. So let's look at task management. That's where most of us need a lot of help, and we can get some really quick wins on the board for ourselves in terms of systemization, optimization, and increasing our effectiveness. So a task management system is not a project management system, though sometimes you will see it billed as a project management system. Manage your project management system with our system, or manage your projects with our system. Projects to me are really larger bodies of work. They have a distinct deliverable, but they have multiple sections and multiple phases that you need to go through. That's what I would class as a project. A task is something like, would you please update this on my website? That's a task. Could you please send this email to someone? That's a task. That's not a project. That's a task. Now, those individual items might actually end up forming a larger project, but they are still tasks. And if that's what the sorts of things that you're getting in, you could look at a task management system to improve yourself. Improve, not yourself. Well, yeah, maybe. But to improve your productivity. I'll name a couple that I know of, but there's a whole heap out there, and they all have their pros and cons. They all have benefits and drawbacks. Some are free and some are not. Some have free options that you can then upgrade into. They're probably the ones I'd look at the most, because then you can actually set up a task management system, get a feel for it, make sure it works. It doesn't cost you anything. Use it for a couple of months, and then if you want to upgrade from there, you can. Now, yes, I know there's the ones that offer you a 30-day free trial. I'll guarantee you by the time you have spent the time setting up the task management system, getting it configured, getting your first couple of clients onto it and start using it, your 30 days is nearly done, and you really don't get a good feel for how it works out. Now, you could still do that and cancel it if it's not working for you 60 days down the track. But if you've got something that gives you a free option to get into and then upgrade, that's probably what I'd recommend for you. So task management systems, I use ClickUp. I have used ClickUp now for several years. It's good. It's lightweight. They are trying to put a lot of bells and whistles around it, but those bells and whistles don't necessarily you don't trip over them. That's the words I'm trying to use. You don't trip over them as you're trying to do your task management system, as you're trying to do your task management. You have the benefit I'll come back to that. I don't want to sort of jump around, but I always have these original thoughts as I go through things. There's ClickUp, there's Asana, there's Friday, there's Trello. There are 4 that I can name straight off the top of my head. There'll be more, and I'm sure you've all got more. And if you've got more, let me know in the comments below, so that we can have a look into them and maybe delve into them a little. They all have a very similar feel to them in how they operate. The visuals on them are a little different, but they all have a similar operation. The idea is that you can set up folders. Those folders can folders or lists. Those folders or lists can be for specific types of tasks, or in my case, I set them up for my customers. So I have a folder for each customer, and then in those folders I duplicate the types of lists that I need, because I do the same thing for every client, but I want to be able to look and say, what have I got coming up for this client, what have I got coming up for that client, what have I got coming up for that client. Then what I want to be able to do is look at that as what we call a rolled up view. So I want to be able to look across all of my folders and all of my lists and get a view of, okay, so this client, I've got these 5 tasks due within 2 days of each other on this week. What do I need to do to be able to manage that and deliver that? Can I actually manage that and deliver that, or do I need to be going back and saying, look, we need to shift things around, or do I need to get extra people in to help me? So that's a task management system. It looks at individual requests and lets you manage them. Now, those individual requests might end up breaking down into subtasks, and most of these systems will let you put on subtasks so that you can say, yep, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do the next thing. Yes, they're all done, that task is done. The other thing that lets you do generally is has your client, some of them will let your client have access to their folder or their list, and your client can put their tasks in. They can log in and see their update. They can put their comments against it. Some do that, some don't. Some charge you for having your client as a user on the system. Some just say, no, they're just they're guests and we'll use them as guests, and they can use the system as a guest. You do need to have a look at those systems and determine what you want for yourselves. What I'd recommend, though, is before you even get to that point, is sit down. You can take a consultation with someone like myself, for example, and sit down and go through your workflow. How does your workflow work today, and how would you like it to work? They're often 2 very different things. You'll have a feel of that if you've been in business for a little while. You will know how it works for you and how it doesn't. But sometimes sitting down with a third party and getting some clarity around that will help immensely as well. So that's your task management system. The next thing you might want to look at, if you're operating a slightly different, so if you're not offering a day-to-day service, one of my parts of my service is my hosting and my website management, and I have a help desk / support desk, which is similar to a task management system, but it's slightly different again. Now, the idea of a help desk / support desk is that I have a portal for my clients. They can log in there and lodge a request themselves. There doesn't have to be any format around that request. It could just be, my website isn't working. I'm getting this error message. Can you look at it? I can then assign a priority to it, and then I can assign that out to different members of my team, or my team can look at the queues that are there and take a task and go and look at it. Take a request and go and look at it. A help desk management system doesn't help with task management. What it does help with is the incoming requests and the outgoing requests, and looking at those looking at that information. Sometimes what you might need to do is use your help desk, support desk in conjunction with a task management system. The other benefit of a help desk / support desk system is it will give you a knowledge base. Generally you will get a knowledge base. So as you go through and start fixing things, you can start creating little articles that you can see, your team can see, or your clients can see, and then when they come in and start putting in a request, it will pop up and say, here, have you thought about this? Here are some articles that might help you resolve this problem, before they even get to putting the ticket in, which is nice. My experience is generally when I get to go into a help desk and saying I need help, that's no help to me, because I've gone through all of their help desk articles to begin with. It will track incoming responses and outgoing responses, and a good help desk support desk management system will then allow you to create sub-tickets that you can lodge with your providers, someone else who might be related to that ticket, to get their input. That can then be a closed piece of work that only you or your team and the third party see, and then you can roll that information up and give it back to your client in a nicely formatted package, if you like. The third category is project management, and I got to say, this one really blows my mind when I'm looking for project management systems. The thing with a project management system is that they're generally highly customizable. You can generally configure them to work with your business, your workflow. You really have to be really clear on what your project management process is before you configure your project management system. And what that does is it kind of takes your task management and rolls it into an overall project. Now, a project is a defined piece of work that has typically a defined endpoint. It will have milestones. Milestones, for those of you that sort of look at those words and go, I wonder what that really means, they're achievements. They're things that you need to achieve and hit along the way. In my case, I use milestones as billing for my project. So when we hit this milestone, I will invoice X% of the project cost. So for me, it's really important to know where my milestones are and how far they are out, because that will help with my cash flow. And then I can roll that into my cash flow system and say, yep, this one's still 3 weeks out, this one's still 6 weeks out. I don't know how long this one's going to take us, because we've hit some snags and we're working on it. You can create dependencies within tasks. So this task here, task C, can't start until task A has completed, but task B can start at the same time as task A, and it too will feed into task C, but task C cannot start until task A has finished. I know, project management is one of those things that you really need to have a good handle on, and if you're going to be running larger packets of work, you really should look at getting someone on board to help you with your project management and setting up some project management systems. So they're the four if we include email calendaring, the 4 broad categories of ways to communicate, systems to communicate throughout your business. The thing that you really need to consider when you're looking at them is, what systems do you already have in place? What do you want to keep? What is a non-negotiable that you will not get rid of this system? What are the things that you might be able to get rid of or to phase out if you go to another system? You shouldn't try to manage too many systems together and get them all talking. If you can get a system that does 1 or 2 things that does most of what you wanted to do, that's probably more beneficial. So what are the integrations with it? Do these systems work with existing systems you've got? Do they require some customization? Do they require some custom code? Do they require some of the integration platforms like if this, then that, Zapier, Zoho Flow, those sorts of things. Do they need those to make them work? The last part is, are there mobile apps? Are there apps, and do they work well on your mobile devices? If you are out and about, and I nomad, you can see I'm sitting here still at the golf club. That's where I'm living at the moment. If you're out nomading, or if you're out traveling, or if you're out getting coffee and your client rings and says, I need to know where this is at, can you pull it up on your phone or your tablet and get that information easily? Or is it is it really a fight and you've got to wait till you get back to your desktop to get all that information out? Do you want to be tied just to your office, or would you like to take advantage of the fact that we all own our own businesses? We're all independent operators, and sometimes we might want to go and sit down at the coffee shop and do a little bit of work while we enjoy the coffee and have some warmth, or get some cool if we're in the warmer parts of the world. So there's some things to think about. I'd really be interested in your feedback, and I'd really like to open this up to a larger conversation. What are you currently using? What are your biggest pitfalls? What are your biggest challenges in making sure that you're operating your business in a productive manner, and cost-effective manner? How much time are you spending managing your back-end systems instead of your back-end systems giving you the freedom to enjoy the business that you're creating? So please remember, like and subscribe this video, ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode, and I'll be back next week to talk about a few other things in regards to communications and your business. Thanks, guys. Bye.